really believe in the wisdom of my staff, and I trust them, and I have confidence in them. And so I use that confidence and trust to really lead them. I try to give them an end state of where I think we should go, but they need they are experts enough with their wisdom to find that way. And if they need my support, I see my role as a leader to support them in getting there. But I don't believe in micromanagement. I think that is counterproductive. And I think having confidence and trust and believing in people is why people follow me. I also think it's important not just to be empathetic, but kind. I think that doesn't mean that you're a sucker, but that people go through life stages, and we need to understand that when they come to work, that they have a lot of that baggage. So you need to understand and be kind and get them through that. And I think in the end, they'll come out stronger employees and more loyal.
I think I have a lot of big energy, and I think people appreciate that. I think because I've had a lot of tenure, like a lot of time in the real estate industry, and I'm still fairly young because I started when I was 4. No, I started when I was just turning 19. So I've been in the business for many years, and I think because I'm younger, I try to keep really positive and generous.
That I don't necessarily think strictly in those terms about getting people to do what I want to do. Okay. It's more in terms of identifying what are goals that everyone shares, and how can you try and prioritize the goals in ways that you think are relevant to the organization. So the leadership piece for me is helping to prioritize the goals, and so in terms of helping people be open, so people have to feel free to communicate, to discuss, to debate, to disagree.
And so, yeah, integrity and honesty are super important to me. And I just think that that's how you earn trust, and that's how you earn respect from people. I think if people know that you're true to your word and that you've got their best intentions at heart, then that's how you really, I think, build strong bonds and form relationships.
Great. I think what I've learned throughout my career truly is time and listening. So I was one of those people that would immediately be thinking of the next answer to sound impressive when I was listening to somebody, rather than truly listening to what they have to say and valuing what they have to say. So using uh, that introspection when I'm talking to people, I think that has been one of the huge things I've learned about leadership, self-awareness of you as a leader. Integrity, of course. I think you need to lead by example. Courage. Courage is one of the key values. Sometimes you need to take hard decisions and be brave, despite, uh, and do the right thing.
I think I know how to fail really well and bounce back. And I think anybody that is a very good leader has had a lot of experience and adversity and trying to engage with people at their own level and really honestly caring. I think if you really love and care for people, and if you are able to let people know that at any level, at any situation, I think that that's what shines through to most people, the genuine, authentic, emotion like that.
This is really good because I haven't thought of this per se. I think not trying to keep things more horizontal, and so having good relationships across the structure of the health center, and not having the situation where because someone is the cleaner or the office assistant or a new employee in the pharmacy that they can't come and talk to you and ask a question. So the sense of accessibility, the sense that any good idea, no matter where it comes from the team, can be put to a staff meeting. That anywhere similarly, any problem or concern anyone has can be put to me. So I think approachability, empathy, and and willingness to have many stakeholders is a good thing I've brought.
Yeah, I think that a lot of things I would say I probably did learn from watching other senior leaders and admiring people I would admire or qualities that I admired about them. I would say I've had some very good mentors as well who have shared feedback with me about what they've seen me do well and maybe in areas that they've seen me having to have a little bit more areas of opportunity, if you will.
Sure. I find that hard in the new way of managing now where we have virtual teams. So I manage a team from Winnipeg West virtually, and I have to build in those kind of leadership qualities virtually, and it's not easy because I'm more of a face-to-face person. But I think it's always checking in and like having a coffee virtually with them. So I have that one-on-one time, FaceTime with them has really been important. So leadership, as I said, I think is making sure that you have the time. And in our stress-filled work lives, we don't do that enough. And I think I always say when someone comes to my door and they say, "Do you have time?" And I go, "I always have time for you."
Attitude's everything, you know.
I think being absolutely rooted in human rights and the equality of all people, despite their personal choices of sexuality, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of country of origin, in terms of class of origin, in terms of social strata, so that the idea that everyone has something to bring, no matter what. And so if someone only has a grade 10 education versus someone has a PhD and has gone to 8 to 10 years of university, the person with a grade 10 education may have some lived experience, which is very important. So I think having that sense of the ability of everyone to contribute is an important value. I think the important to have really a gender balance too, and listen to many structures have not done a good job listening to women. So having that, and knowing that anyone can feel comfortable to be themselves in a meeting.
I like to be very open, so I really do have an open door policy, and I hope that my team feels that I'm approachable in all aspects for anything, whatever. I mean, yes, they all have their individual people managers, but I do always want my door to be open and I want people to know that they can come to me at any time with anything. But if you don't demonstrate that you're listening and that you actually are acting on some of these things, I mean, you're not going to be able to act on everything, but you don't demonstrate that you are open and listening and acting on certain things, and people will stop coming to you.
I remember the olden days we used to look at the parking lot to see who was still working, and we valued people overworking, and even though they were doing overtime, they probably weren't very productive. But that's how we used to measure people's productivity, and that's just so wrong-headed, right? And now virtually, I don't even see my staff. I don't even know if they're in the office or what they're doing. So I have to build that trust with them, and that confidence that they're doing what they're supposed to when I'm not there. So I think we used to have quite a paternalistic view of leadership, that we were there to monitor. It's not even male leadership; it's management, but monitor and make sure that the checking the boxes were done. But we're going to a very different environment where we have to ensure that we have that trust in our employees to do the right thing too.
I would say that it definitely varies. So in terms of the classification used, but I guess dynamic. So sometimes it's very important that you have a very big picture vision. So you try to get people to rally to a vision and think outside of themselves. And because there's, I think, a lot of evidence that when people think outside of their immediate needs, they can become more other-minded, more externally focused, and then more open to cooperation. So at that time, if you have people rallying around a vision, so what is our vision statement? What is our purpose? And then along those things, you try and add in things like inspiration, ethics, best case examples. What would Malala Yousafzai say at this point?
Everybody in my team, everybody in this organization is smart and can do the job that they've been hired to do. And so I start out with the assumption that everybody is going to do well, and I don't need to necessarily micromanage. And I assume that everybody knows what's expected. Like, I don't assume, but we communicate what's expected of people.
Yeah.
And then I expect them to work towards executing on those things. And so I really do kind of give people, I'm using a lot of sayings, but give people the rope, right?
Yeah.
So I give them the latitude to be very independent. But I think depending on the individuals and depending then on their performance or their ability to demonstrate to me that they understand
Yeah.
what the expectations are, the rope can get pulled in a little bit. So it can change. It can change from person to person. It can change with a person over time.
Yeah.
And so I would say that is maybe my other kind of management style, but I really do not like to micromanage people. And I really do like to give people the autonomy to really drive their own career and grow and learn. And that doesn't mean that I'm not open to having dialogue or being available to manage them if they need help, but I do like people to feel like they can run with it.
It's very much a collaborative, environment where we try to build trust, and we're in a lot of change right now. So I think my role is to ensure people that they still have a job and that we are doing the best for them, and that yes, our role may be changing due to technology and learning. There's lots of changes, but to give them the confidence that they'll be able to evolve with that.
I think I have a fairly good moral
Practical.
compass, yeah, and I know that it's not rigid enough that I can't be spacious and be flexible.
Or what would Mandela say to this situation or something? So just to get people to think of what would people we hugely admire.
Yeah.
So that's a certain type of leadership. But then there are other moments definitely where your leadership is very different, and you have to achieve a decision or an action within a time frame, an hour or something.
Right.
And at that point, you try to do an efficient round table, get inputs, and then you try and willow down to the best 3 or 4 options, and then try and get consensus on those options. So in that instance, you do push the process, and you're more result driven.
So I think leading by example for sure is a way that the team can recognize that it's kind of the culture that I'm trying to drive is around, nobody's perfect. Everybody's going to make mistakes, but let's acknowledge them, quickly fix them, rectify them, apologize, and move on.
I guess nothing formal, but we have more of an informal way. So we have our communications. I think reinforces that I'm always here to listen and to provide them with overall framework of direction. And we're really, like I said, going into a different period of how we manage learning. So bringing them along with us on that has been my main vision right now.
We try to do regular meetings. I take their goals and build them into my goals, and then we work on a mutual goal together. That's the goals that we set, are goals that we try to work on as a team. We could be better at getting sort of a real mutual come together on that, but I'm sure that as we continue progressing and evolving, that will happen.
That vision to do with the future, and what future do we want to move towards. So you can have value-based, you can have future-based visions, and then you can also have, I think, an ethic, humility too. That we have not. I think that's a value we try and bring into a vision.
Right.
To come in very humble to say we haven't perfected this. We're always looking to improve. So what haven't we thought of yet? And so we'll have some brainstorming sessions sometimes with a particularly challenging issue, and you say, what is it? What have we know what we do think, we know what we do know, but what about what we haven't thought about and what we don't know yet?
Yes.
And how can we incorporate those things?
My vision might have been to be, top 10 in the country when I first got here. And the reality is that we've had ongoing people vacancies and challenges and, lots of things that have kind of gotten in the way. And so I think that vision has to change a little bit to say, okay, now my vision is that we get people enroll and
Yeah.
you know we have a full staff and you know people are happy in their jobs and you know and then once we get there then maybe we start
The
to
other
work
stuff.
towards now how can we get to being top 10. Follow my lead. I think what happens is people need to feel as though they believe in what you're trying to do, and so you know they need to feel as though they can contribute to the vision, that they um, um, will have a part to play in executing on the vision, and it needs to resonate with them. And so, you know, it's about trying to figure out how to manage the messaging to people so that they feel as though they can be a part of it. And
One thing I've really found tough is mental health issues. Because I know so little about it, and it's easy to be a social worker for your staff. And there's really I struggle with boundaries sometimes, and it comes from a good place, I think mostly. But some issues, it's very inappropriate for you to lead people who don't want to. How can I describe it? Well, they really need other outside people to, or even self awareness of what their issues are. But I'm certainly not there to say, hey, you know, you look like you're schizophrenic. You better get some help. But I find it hard to lead without trying to get them help.
I'm too sensitive. I get too hurt, and I get stuck. And so, really focusing on bouncing back. So, not spending too much time um, getting stuck on, trying to quickly figure out the challenge, move forward in a positive way.
told by a manager that I needed to have less emotion about things because I think I did get up and down and up and down. And I think, you know, recognizing that, and particularly as a leader, it is important because people are watching.
Yeah.
Right? Your team is watching you. And so you kind of always have to have that in the back of your mind. If you're going to freak out, go for a walk around the block.
Okay.
And another type would be where a member of your team really betrays your values in a serious way, and how do you respond to that? And with 30 people, I've been doing this in this team for almost 20 years, so you've had moments of that.
Yeah.
And where you just have to eventually come to that difficult position where you say, you try and have the person come around to agreeing to look at be part of a team which is based on these values, this way of acting. The person cannot find their way to do that, and you can't get them to shift course. Coming back to different styles of leadership, at that moment you have to get very directive. You have to write them a letter outlining their duties and responsibilities and expected outcomes, and if that doesn't happen, you then have to tell them they can't be part of the team anymore. So that's been my telling people they can't be part of your team anymore. That's sort of the end of the journey for those people. That's been the toughest thing.
Anyway, but I think one of the challenges is when you have people, you know, and in previous roles, I've had people on teams who have been, you know, very good people, and they've been in their roles a long time, but they're no longer aligned to the vision, right? So the vision has changed, and they're very good at what they used to be doing, but now the job calls for something different. And so, you know, the challenges around that is, you know, I think identifying it and then recognizing that you've got to deal with it. And, you know, I've had many a sleepless night when you know, have to impact somebody's career or have a conversation with them to say, like, you know, you're just no longer, like, this just isn't a good fit anymore.
Yeah.
So I would say those have been really difficult challenges for me.
Okay, so I think my advice is listen, learn those skills, active listening. It sounds silly, but I think it makes you a much richer leader when you're not always, you know, flapping your gab and thinking you know it all. I think there's so much wisdom from your employees and your colleagues that taking the time to listen, truly listen, to me has been the biggest lesson. Feedback is a gift, both ways. I solicit feedback from my staff. I think you should be brave enough to do that, and also feedback, constructive for your staff. I wish earlier in my career I understood, the value of learning, and because I think a lot of the folks that I had issues with in my staff, I really didn't understand how to communicate with them properly and how to even appreciate them. So understanding your self-awareness of your communications, I think, is really valuable for any leader as well. And put away your BlackBerry, put away your iPhone, and you can't manage or lead by BlackBerry or iPhone. You have to really take the time to talk to people.
Always believe in yourself and put yourself first. So don't let what other people have to say or think influence what you're doing. Believe in your intuitive self-belief, and always believe in yourself. Really try and live your word and be your person. That's going to shine through. And I think that people want to be with confident people. They want to be with people that have that type of ability to stand up and to ignite that in people, because that gives other people confidence as well too.
Yeah, so I think the first thing would be know your field, and I think when I graduated, I went through medical school, and I think my biggest deficiency when I graduated medical school, even though I was quite broad in my interests, I think my biggest weakness was I didn't know history. So the key thing with anything, whether you're talking more healthcare, whether you're talking basic science, whether you're talking public administration, whether you're talking entrepreneurship, is you have to say, here I am, 2019, and this is the reality of my field of endeavor. How do we get here? And if you understand that history, how do we get here, you'll understand the good, the bad, the successes, the failures, things that have been not good. You'll understand too to what extent we arrive here in or outside of regulation. Some things evolve because of regulation, and the regulation can be good. The regulation can be not so good from the government. And some things evolve just of their own momentum. So I think the key thing is to know history and really study your field much more deeply than you need to. And also understand the evolution of social conditions around you. So even though you might be just interested in healthcare, it's really important to understand, for example, what's going on with youth culture,
Right.
and what kind of music are kids listening to, and that sort of thing.
Right.
See, something that could seem very irrelevant to your field actually can really inform what you do in your area of work.
Don't pretend you have all the answers. I find it fascinating because, I can add a lot of value in different ways, but I am not the smartest person in this branch. I do not know half the stuff about credit that either Warren or Rich know, but I know a lot of other things. And so, I don't for a minute pretend that I have all the answers or that I know everything. And I'm often every day just trying to figure it out as well. And I don't know, let's Google that, or let's, I don't know, let me call somebody in another branch and ask them the question. I think, don't pretend that you know it all. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't pretend you know it all. Be genuine, be honest, work hard, and be respectful of people, and I think you'll just naturally form good relationships. And if you're a hard worker and you lead by example, and you kind of demonstrate that this is the culture and the expectation that you have, I think people will naturally rise to the top and become a leader.